Hi, I'm going to talk about a subject that I want to give a little background before I go into. I am Jewish. I was raised Jewish. Little Jewish kids in Canada, at least 61 years ago, were learning about World War II, anti-Semitism, all of these things barely before we could walk and talk. We knew this stuff before we ever went to school, where other kids may have learned it in school. We were in effect initiated into what the world is like. So when I say what I'm about to say, understand this background. This is what I'm about to say. Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal. He has engaged in a genocide. When I look at Benjamin Netanyahu, I see someone who really follows in the footsteps of, and here it is, Nazi Germany. Okay, now I know people are not all going to agree with me. I know that I'm going to get some flack for this, but I have to say what I believe. As a Jewish person who was raised in the baby boom generation and who one of my first learning experiences was World War II, anti-Semitism, the violation of basic human rights. So with that, I'm going to go on. By the way, if you enjoy this video, please hit like and subscribe. Please remember that while it may not be important to you, it's very important to me. Who is Benjamin Netanyahu? Well, he's Israel's longest serving prime minister. He's been a central figure in that nation's political landscape for decades. His tenure has been marked by significant military operations in the Palestinian territories, particularly on the Gaza Strip. These actions have drawn international scrutiny and allegations of war crimes and crimes against humanity. His operations in Gaza there have been, first of all, numerous military campaigns in Gaza. They're often justified as responses to Hamas's rocket attacks on Israeli territory, and this may be true, but there are some questionable actions. Notable actions include Operation Protective Edge in 2014 and Operation Guardian of the Walls in 2021. These operations resulted in substantial Palestinian casualties and widespread destruction of infrastructure. In October 2023, following a series of escalations, the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, launched a comprehensive offensive in Gaza. The stated objective was to neutralize Hamas's military capabilities. However, reports indicated that the offensive led to significant civilian casualties and the destruction of essential infrastructure such as hospitals, schools, housing. The blockade imposed on Gaza exacerbated the humanitarian crisis, restricting access to food, medical supplies, basic necessities. And yes, we know that Israeli hostages were taken. We know that they were not treated well, but this was just Hamas. It was not the Palestinian people. There have been allegations of war crimes and crimes against humanity centered toward Netanyahu and the Israeli forces under Netanyahu's command. And so, for example, Amnesty International and the Human Rights Watch have accused Israel of employing disproportionate force and deliberately targeting civilian areas, which may constitute war crimes under international law. One of the most severe allegations pertains to the use of starvation as a method of warfare. The blockade of Gaza, combined with military operations that destroyed agricultural areas and water infrastructure, led to widespread food insecurity among the Palestinian populations. Now, such behavior, such actions are prohibited under the Geneva Convention and are considered war crimes. In November 2024, to that end, the International Criminal Court, the ICC, issued arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. These charges included the war crime of starvation as a method of warfare and crimes against humanity, such as murder and persecution. The ICC's pretrial Chamber 1 found reasonable grounds to believe that from October 8, 2023 to at least May 2024, Netanyahu and Gallant bore criminal responsibility as co-perpetrators of these acts. There have been differing and very significant international reactions. Some nations have condemned the military operations and supported legal action against Netanyahu and the Israeli forces, while others have defended Israel's right to self-defense. We see this happening with the United States now, kind of supporting supporting Israel in their behavior, almost applauding it, while trying to push the blame on civilians in Gaza. Following the ICC's issuing of these warrants, Israel's government vehemently rejected the court's jurisdiction and allegations. They claimed it was anti-Semitism. Netanyahu's office stated that Israel, quote, rejects disgust the absurd and false actions leveled against it by the ICC, end quote, and declared that it would not, quote unquote, give in to pressure. European nations have expressed significant concern over Israel's military strategies, particularly regarding operations in densely populated areas like Rafah. The European Union's foreign policy chief, Josep Borrell, described reports of an Israeli military offensive on Rafah as alarming and warned that catastrophic consequences that would worsen the already dire humanitarian situation were just around the corner. Meanwhile, as I said, the United States has maintained its support for Israel. This month, in fact, Marco Rubio, the U.S. Secretary of State, emphasized the necessity of dismantling Hamas and liberating Israeli hostages, which I think most of us would agree should be the case. However, he also endorsed President Trump's controversial plan to take control of Gaza and relocate nearly 2 million Palestinians. And this is nothing short of ethnic cleansing. The ICC's warrants represent a landmark moment. It's the first time the court has targeted leaders of a Western-backed democratic nation for alleged war crimes. The warrants obligate the 124 member states of the ICC to arrest the individuals if they enter their territory. However, Israel is not a party to the ICC, and the United States, which is also a non-member of the ICC, have criticized the court's actions, which complicates their ability to enforce these warrants. These legal proceedings, they've sparked a broader debate about accountability and the application of international law. So supporters argue that holding leaders accountable for actions that violate international norms is essential for justice and deterrence. However, critics argue that the ICC's actions are politically motivated and question the court's jurisdiction over non-member states. The fact is that for many people, for many nations, for some of us who were raised to understand, like I said, before we could walk and talk, what ethnic cleansing is, these crimes are unacceptable. They're evil. But other nations, such as the United States, which are not members of the ICC and support Israel unilaterally, they have confounded this issue. It is a complex issue, but for those of us watching who are seeing this play out in ways very similar to the crimes that were played out against our own people, it is horrifying. And with that, I say, again, remember to hit subscribe and like, and remember, to be senior is to be proud. Hugs.